Welcome back to another episode. This is Luke Buckley, Professor B, coming to you with Readability today. Do you ever wonder if there's a way to figure out how well you're writing and to which grade level you're writing to? Well, it turns out there is. There's several formulas which we can compare our texts to and see what grade level we are writing for. So we are going to dive in and look at a little presentation here, our slide deck as usual, and then I'll wrap it up with some final comments. Let's dive in and see what we can learn. All right, let's take a look at readability. And as my opening comment stated, readability helps us know what grade level we're writing to or what grade level someone would have to be to read our texts. Okay? We're in the business of building texts in this class, so we need to know how easy it is for those we're giving our documents to not only read it, but also understand it. Okay? It is a depiction and a measure of the quality of your writing. Understandability is a concept. If there's a high level of understandability, people can understand your sentences very easily without having to think about what's going on. You use clearly a subject, a verb, a direct object. You put them in close proximity to each other so they don't get lost when wandering through your sentences. If you have a low level of understandability, they may understand it, but it takes a lot of work to figure it out. Okay? And most of all, we want to make sure we don't confuse it with a concept of legibility, whether or not you can distinguish the letter forms. Does the typeface get in the way? Is the layout messing you with your readers? If it's handwritten, can you tell what letters are actually those letters? Okay. Well, here's a chart that shows all, well, not all of them, but a ton of factors that go into readability. One of the main ones being, do they even want to do it at the top there? And going clockwise, several of them you can see how the spacing is, what type of print you use, how do you organize your document. We're going to focus on, for our talk here, sentence length, word length, type of word frequency. We're not going to consider much of these other things, but we'll take a look at this. So it has been studied for a while, and you can see here 1963, 69, and 94, some definitions that have been given to the concept of readability. Essentially, well, the degree to which people find it easy and able to read and understand. We talked about that already. There are many different formulas. We're going to look at the Gunning-Fogg index for this example here. You can see there are readability means, Smog, Raygor, etc. But they predict how well people will be able to read it, all right? And they're generally based on a few variables. If we're looking at formulas, we have variables that go into our formulas. Average length of the words you use. How long are your sentences in words? Not letters, but words. How many common words do you use versus longer or harder or words? Words with more than 2 syllables, so 3 syllables and up. And the proportion of your words that you use that are monosyllabic. They only have 1 syllable. Are, of, the, things like that. Okay, make sense? Well, let's see. We're going to use Fogg, I said. So to determine the Fogg index for readability, you need to figure out the average sentence length, the percentage of long words or hard words in your document, and then you plug them into the formula down below and you get a grade level. Okay, so it's the quantity average sentence length plus the percentage of hard words added together and multiply that by 0.4. Let's see how we might do that. Here is an example of some text. Now you want to make sure that the example you use has at least 100 words, and then you evaluate that sample. So we need to first determine the average sentence length. We do that by counting up the total number of sentences, the total number of words, and then it's a simple math formula. Divide the number of words by the number of sentences to get the average sentence length. Here we go. In our sample we showed earlier, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences. And if we count up all of the words in these 4 sentences, we determine that there was 103 words. Okay? Doing the simple division, we come out with 25.75 words for our average sentence length in this particular sample. Now, to determine the number of long words, or the percentage of hard words, it's referred to in both ways, you need to look at words that have 3 or more syllables, but ignore capitalized words, ignore compound nouns, and ignore verbs that end in ing, es, or ed. Okay, you count all those up, and then you divide the number of long words by the total number of words, which we figured out from the slide before. In this example, it was 103. Okay? So, such a disposition to blah, 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 blah. All of the blue highlighted words are our long words, or our hard words. Okay? There are 25 of them. Divide that by 103, and then multiply by 100 to get the percentage of long words. So, to figure out our fog index for this, we add those two numbers up and multiply by 0.4. And in this case, we get a grade level for this sample of 19.62. So the 19th grade. You might be thinking, okay, K through 12, I know what that is. 19 would be, roughly 7 years past your senior year in high school. So you're into your master's program or your doctoral program before you understand this, right? So let's look at another sample. Here's a shorter sample taken from one of the textbooks that we use in our technical writing courses. Okay. If we evaluate that, we see there were 105 words in 5 sentences. The long word percentage was 12.38, and we get a grade level reading of 13.35, which would be freshman level college. Okay? Let's look at a chart. You can see here that on the left-hand side we have a type of reading, and then we have some columns that describe either how easy or difficult it is and what grade level that corresponds to. We all understand what comics are. Reading ease is very easy, 5th grade level, and about 93% of the people we might interact with would be able to understand comics. Rolling forward, if we get up into the first or the last years of high school, fairly quality writing, somewhat difficult to understand, 12th grade fog index, about 54% of the people will be able to understand it. Now the two examples we looked at, one was 13 point something. Okay, that gets into academic writing. It's harder, so we have a difficult rating, and only about a third of the people you interact with will understand it. That very first example, though, stands out. Grade 19. Okay? Reading ease, it's scientific writing, must be in college, very difficult or graduate level, and around 4% will be able to understand what you're reading. Okay? So we need to be cautious of how we write. As we talk about in technical writing all the time, consider your audience, consider your audience, consider your audience. I say that over and over again. If you are writing up here in the 19th grade level, but your audience is running around the 10, right? You're going to leave 83 minus 4, so about 79% of your audience out. And they'll get up and walk out not knowing a thing of what you said. Right? We can do readability checks. If you're in Microsoft Word, you go into the grammar checker and say, give me my readability score. You'll get a sheet kind of like this, or a dialog box. And down here says the Flesch-Kincaid grade level is about 10.5. Now I did this. This is an actual thing I did on our syllabus. So I've written our syllabus according to Flesch-Kincaid to be understood by a sophomore in high school. And over here, this is a website that you can upload your text to. The same text, all right? So your text have an average grade level about 11, okay? Pretty close, 10, 11, and should be easily understood by 16 to 17-year-olds. Pardon my tongue. So we should be able to understand it very well in our class because we're juniors and seniors at a STEM-focused university. So it is a very important concept to get. We need to be cautious of how understandable our writing is for our readers, and I think this is the end of our talk. Yes, it is. So stay tuned for some closing comments. Well, that was fascinating. We looked at a way to understand what readability is, essentially how well can our readers understand what we wrote. That's pretty simple. It doesn't get much simpler than that. So we looked at two formulas, actually one formula, two examples. One was written at a 19th grade level. The other was written at a 13th grade level, and showed you at the end how to figure that out. So you will be doing this for me and sending me some examples of how well you're writing, and then we'll watch the progression over the semester. So this is Professor B signing off for this episode, and stay tuned to see what we're learning next.